And here we go. What's going on, y'all? Gonzo's Convos, Season 6, Episode 14. I have one guest and one guest only on this episode. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Gonzo, for inviting me and having me on your show. I appreciate you reaching out and us collaborating for this conversation. My name
Mhm.
is Clarissa Phalen. I am 34 years old from San Antonio, Texas, and I'm here to discuss with Gonzo with whatever he wants to talk about today.
I got you. So let's go ahead and start off with talking about like what you do and stuff like that. I already know, but for the ones listening.
Well, if there's something that you want me to specify, just please let me know. I'll
Mhm.
probably just go over generally. I'm a 10-year Army veteran, currently in the Texas National Guard. I'm a detective for the San Antonio Police Department, and I currently have an Airbnb, starting up a security company, and just recently launched a leadership mentorship program.
Wow. So you're doing everything right now.
Trying to,
That's really
trying
cool.
to, and we have two kids that are in the mix.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I like that though. You don't really hear that every day where like, someone's doing so many things like military, police, starting your own companies. Like I think that's really cool. What made you want to join the military, by the way?
So, joining the military was a result of me going through a divorce with my kid's dad.
Mhm.
I'd wanted to go to law school. So, I was trying to find a way to pay for law school and military, they have their tuition benefits. So, I started looking into that. And since the end goal was to go to law school, but I didn't want to take out a huge loan, I joined the military. And then we just fast forward 10 years, and I'm still not in law school, but the military ended up working out, and sometimes life's crazy like that. So it just
Absolutely.
worked out better than you expected.
Absolutely. So I myself, I recently got out not too long ago. What made me join for my part was, fresh out of high school, not really knowing what else to do, especially because it was COVID. So COVID kind of ruined a lot of things. So military is just like, why not do this for a contract and see how it is, and you know,
Get
have
your
that happen.
benefits. Yeah,
Yeah.
get your benefits, get your experience, get your resume built. So fresh out of high school, that's like, if if you don't know what you want to do, they're going to teach you
Mhm.
a trade, and it'll open up doors for you, and you're going to network and meet a lot of cool people too. So
Absolutely, absolutely, and overall, I feel like it was a good experience. I learned a lot. Um, at the same time, especially on the enlisted side, there was a lot of toxicity. There's so much toxicity, especially in the active duty area where I was
yeah.
at too. What are your overall thoughts on that?
Um, as far as the toxicity, I think that both, in the military, police, even in the civilian working environment, I think we can do so much better as far as
Mhm.
training, as far as being professional in the work environment. I'm not sure what your experiences were, but as a female in the military, I've had my share of experiences, where just comments shouldn't have been made, boundaries were crossed. And when you go to work, you don't want to go to work to have to worry or be in an environment that makes you feel uncomfortable, right? Because
Right.
then you start feeling anxiety and things that are going to cloud what you need to be doing and what
Mhm.
you need to be doing to complete the mission. So I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing, an example of what you went through.
It's just more so if you're like a low rank in the enlisted side, meaning like E5. I'm gonna say E5 and below. Um, it's not like things don't really seem like to really go your way as far as like what you want to do to take care of yourself, if that makes sense. So I've had a lot of people in charge. I'm just gonna say people in charge that didn't allow their soldiers that they're taking care of to go take care of what they needed to do personally.
Mhm.
They rather put the mission first before the soldiers, if that made sense.
Yeah,
And that was just one unit that I was a part of. It wasn't like my whole time in the army. It was just my final one, my final
yeah.
area.
No, and I think too, you said you were in the Army, right?
Mhm.
Army branch. Um, I think also in the different branches, they have different cultures, because I've found that, like, my Air Force or Navy counterparts, they
Yeah,
have more of a people first approach and family first. And I think that, we could do better in the Army, in the Marines, to put our people first, because if our people aren't good, then how are they going to do their jobs well, and how are we going to accomplish the mission? Even if we're
Exactly.
putting the mission first, it's not going to get done, if our people aren't good. And it's the same with like in policing, when we're running code with lights and sirens, and we're trying
Yeah.
to get to the call fast, right? We're trying to get to that emergency fast, but if you don't stop at every intersection and clear that intersection and make sure you're not going to cause an accident, because if you cause an accident, you're not going to get to that emergency.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's the same with the military. Like, you have to make sure your people are good so that way the mission can get accomplished.
Exactly. But yeah, I didn't see a lot of that in my final duty station. So it was, I don't know, I think that was kind of like my hit or miss, like where I was like, I need to get out of here and get back to the civilian life, so try to re-get used to everything else differently. You know what I mean?
Yes. And
And then
uh-huh.
I was gonna say, and then also, me as a Chicano as well, I'm bilingual. I speak English and Spanish. There's been times where I'd be speaking Spanish to, a battle buddy, I'm gonna say, or someone that's, that I was real close to, and be told like, hey, you can't do that. The official language is English or something like that. You know.
So that kind of sounds like they're insecure in whatever y'all were talking about and probably felt left out, which is
Yeah.
definitely not supportive of the fact that we need more people that speak different languages for our different missions that we need to accomplish. So that in itself, I would say, is definitely not the way to handle that. Unless I guess they may have felt like you were talking about them. Like, when I go get my nails done and then
Yeah.
they're speaking a whole different language, and then sometimes it's like, the conversation didn't start until I was here. So what are you
You know
actually
what you're
saying?
saying? Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it just comes from an insecure part of them. They could have been supportive and told you differently of
Yeah.
y'all
Yeah.
speaking another language.
That's definitely true. But though, I mean, like I said, for the most part, like I think it was a good experience. And, good to start off in, and
Yeah.
I think for at least the contract, everyone should at least give it a try. Whether it's enlisted, going the officer route, I would say the officer route. But yeah, I definitely think it's something everyone should try.
I agree. I think it also gives you a different perspective of those that do serve and those that do make that sacrifice, because, while we're gone away from family, away from friends, like while we're training or while we're out on deployment,
Yeah,
um, you do grow as an individual. And I know that I came back different from my family and from how they perceive the world, because I just had a bigger idea of what is actually going on because I experienced it. So I'm very grateful for that.
absolutely.
Because if you just stay in that one little community, I see it all the time where their mindset is just that one little community and they can't
Yeah,
really wrap their head around anything bigger.
yeah. Versus with the military, you see a bunch of different communities collided into one, which is cool. I like
Mhm.
that. Now, like you personally, have you noticed anything toxic within the military itself, or like in the world in general? Like, what have you experienced?
Well, in the military, I think that, like I said before, that we do need to be better as far as training to be professional, how we communicate, because how you say something and how somebody perceives it could be two different things. So just making sure y'all are always on the same page,
Yeah,
um, setting those clear expectations of like, okay, this makes me feel uncomfortable, or vice versa. So that way y'all are communicating effectively. That's probably what I've been through in the military for the most part. Like I said, as a female, I've had my own share of experiences where boundaries have been crossed, and if you don't set if you're not clear and you don't set those boundaries and say like, that makes me feel uncomfortable,
yeah,
then it's just going to continue to grow, and it's like a fire that starts as a little flame and then it's going to eventually go ablaze, right? And it's too late, because it's like, why didn't you report all these other things that have happened?
yeah,
um but on the other side of that, I've had my female soldiers that feel like they can't report because of retaliation, because they're still going to be under that supervisor or under that unit, and that they won't get the support that they need.
mhm,
So I think that in itself too is, if there's somebody that comes out, that support is there, by leadership, to separate the parties and until the investigation is complete, or you know whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen more of that in the active duty side.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen nothing done for a lot of cases that were serious like that. I've seen a lot of it, and I don't know. I just think it definitely, like you said, it needs to be a lot better. There needs to be a big change that can just make it better just all around, not just for females, but for everybody,
Right.
that's going through all that, you know. But
And yeah, and then on the policing side, I've seen every type of crisis that you can think of, because that's when they're going to call police, right? That's when our communities are calling 911, is at their worst moments or when
yeah,
they need help. So I've been on law enforcement 8 years, and within those 8 years, I've seen a lot. And that kind of goes into like the mental health services too, because I'm in both. I'm in the military and policing, and I will
mm,
say that I think the military is getting more supportive of people coming out and saying like, I have depression, or I have anxiety, or I'm dealing with this or that, or I saw this while I was deployed. But that's not necessarily the culture for policing, because
mm,
policing is like, when you come out and say something, then there's something wrong with you. How can you go help people if there's something wrong with you? But I think we forget that when the uniform comes off, whether it's military or policing, we're still human beings, and we
yeah,
still have to deal with everything that we saw that day, that week, that month, those years. Um, so I think we could do better as far as getting mental health services for both military and police.
absolutely. So I do have one question. There was this show. It's called The Rookie. Is the police academy kind of, or police kind of something like that, or is it like completely different from that?
Could you give me an example of what's on? I haven't seen the rookie, but just
So
from the time
like,
I
so
can.
like, I was gonna say, so like I guess what they're calling them, the boots, with like the new people that come in, like, do they kind of like not really haze them, but like mess with them a little bit and
They
kind of
do.
like,
They do have like different titles for like the new people that come on. They're called the boots. Um, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen the rookie, but I think a part of it is character building. I wouldn't say necessarily hazing, but it is a tough job, right? So we have
yeah,
to be resilient. You have to have that mental toughness, because like I said, you're going to be called on somebody's worst day. And maybe their worst day looks like them yelling at you in your face, them calling you every single name in the book. And you have to be able to take a step back and realize that that's not personal to you. That's what they're going through. And
yeah,
so you have to be able to take all that and then say, okay, well, what is the problem that I need to help fix right now? And
mhm,
so I think a part of, the calling them a boo and um, little pranks here and there is the character building, in that you're still new. There's still a lot to learn.
yeah.
Um, don't ever have your guard down, because complacency will get you killed. Um, so, I mean, was there any other examples on the rookie that you can?
I feel like that was the main one because it kind of reminded me a little bit of like a basic type of vibe where it's like
Yeah,
they're just fresh in the unit, like they're gonna mess with them, and they did, and eventually as time went by, like they kind of got more comfortable with each other, and kind of developed like a little relationship a little bit. So
yeah,
I just wondered if the police normally was just normally like that.
yeah. So, like, basic is similar to our police academy, because that's the first 7, 8 months that you're going through training and learning. Like I used to be an instructor at the academy, and it's kind of like not like a newborn baby, but a newborn baby is like fresh, right? And doesn't know anything, and you teach them to crawl, to walk, to run.
Yeah,
And same in the military, right? So you're basically teaching this new person that knows nothing about law enforcement or nothing about the military what it's going to take to succeed. Yes, you have to know the laws, but you also have to know how to interact with people, how to communicate. You're going to be a leader in the community, and
yeah,
you need to conduct yourself like that. And if you're going to be enforcing laws, then you have to be following the laws yourself. And I think
absolutely.
sometimes people forget that, or people in law enforcement, you see it across the nation, right? Of police officers getting in trouble for not conducting themselves the way they should be.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know. It's all interesting to me because I've thought about the police academy myself. A couple years back, even before the military. But that's just ideas and stuff that I've always had. But going into everyday life, like with this generation, what do you think of this generation?
This generation is different. I'll say they're very different. You know, I was always the oldest, like in basic training. I was 24, 25 when I started, and everybody's like 17, 18, 19, right? So
Yeah,
just there's like a 7, 8 year gap. And then when I started the police academy, I was 27 and everybody was about 21, 22. So I've always kind of been the older person in the group.
yeah,
Um, but my children are 14 and 13. So like, I feel like there is a bridge. I can see the bridge of, and the diverse changes that have happened with this generation. So, you know, I think this generation is a reflection of their parents, probably my age to about 45, right? I'm 34, so up to about 45, 50. I think there's been a lot of growth as far as like how to deal with things emotionally and how to say when something is wrong.
yeah.
But I also feel like there's a lot of entitlement where there shouldn't be. So
Ooh.
I
Can
think
you, can
that
you elaborate on that?
entitlement where there shouldn't be.
Yeah,
I don't know if it came with the participation awards or what it came with, but it's just like it seems like no matter what activity or job or competition, it's always like, well, everybody wins. And
yeah,
if like just to experience something, I think everybody wins, but that means that you're only getting that experience. You're not getting something materialistic to take with you.
yeah,
So I think that's where it's different for me is that when I go into something, I know that I'm going to get experience and knowledge, and whatever I put into it, I'm going to get out of it. Versus some of the younger counterparts down to my children's age, it's like, well, what am I getting for it? Am I getting paid? Am I getting a prize? Am I getting, versus they're just showing up, they're not doing
yeah.
any work.
I'm actually really glad you said it 'cause I've seen that more often than not, and especially in like these generations that are coming after us, like my siblings, like I'll make like they're making deals with me and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, you're gonna pay me for that, though. And you know, they're only in like middle school and shit, so I'm like,
Yeah,
but I don't know. I feel like that is crazy that people expect to make like to get paid to do something to get something in return for what they're about to do, which I don't feel like there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, when it becomes like unreasonable, then I
right.
feel like that's where we should draw the line. You know?
Right. And there's a difference, like, you gave the example of your, I don't, if it was your nieces, nephews, cousins, or whatever, making a deal with you. The same
Yeah.
with my kids. And, simply for chores, it's like, well, what am I going to get paid for the chores? And it's like, well, no, you live in the house I pay for.
Right.
So,
Right.
so you're going to clean
Yeah.
your room and you're going to take care of the dogs, and we're going to not get paid for that. But well, I will say that I do pay them for their grades, because I tell them that your grades, your what you do in school right now, that is your job.
Hmm.
You're not old enough to get an actual job, so your performance, if you get an A, you get so much money. If you get a B, you get so much money, and that's the money that's going to have to last them until their next progress report. But I pay them because I want them to take that serious, because that's the job that I value. And they'll tell me like, well, why do I need to learn this subject or that subject? And it's like, you may not need it right now,
We ask
but
those same questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you may not need it right now, but you might need it in the future. Like my
Right.
daughter can't stand math, but she loves money. And I said, okay, those two things don't,
You need math. No.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to know math in order to be able to properly budget and count your money, and what you
Hmm.
have left and what are you going to spend on and all that stuff. Or if you have multiple clients, okay, that's multiplication right there. Because if you're expecting 100, 100, 100, and you didn't multiply that correctly, a zero can be dropped really quickly. So it's like being able to explain to them the relevance of why it's important, I think helps, the understanding of, okay, it's not going to be instant gratification, and you
Yeah.
need to understand that. But I think a lot of it is the parents and the guardians that are bringing up this generation. We have the responsibility that we need to take for how they are growing up. And
Absolutely.
I think we grew up harder, and so that's why we want to give to our children, and it ends up coming out as entitlement. And so sometimes I can't be upset because I know that I did that. I created
Right.
that.
Right. And I feel like depending on what culture your background is it also plays a role too. Like me, obviously I grew up in the early 2000s. So I feel like I always felt like I had a lifestyle that was different from everybody else's. Like I was just raised differently. And I feel like that's just a cultural thing. Like old school Mexicans do this a certain way versus, a Caucasian family might do this differently, or an
Mhm.
African American family might do that differently, or a little bit the same. I don't know. But I always felt like I was just kind of raised differently. Like culture backgrounds for sure have a role in that.
Yeah, and did you see that, like, when did you realize that you were raised different? Was it in the, like, cuz I knew I was when I went to the military. Because I feel like that's when I really saw all the cultures blend, and like they teach you everybody's doing everything the same, but when
Yeah,
you're to do that, it's like, okay, well, everybody does it different until you learn to do it the same.
yeah. I would say I experienced it probably at an early age, actually. Probably like when I was in, late, maybe mid elementary school, I started noticing like my lifestyle is just different. Like my parents are a little more strict than their parents. They're buying them all of this stuff and all that. Like mine, they're like, get a job, start
Yeah.
working, you know. I started working at an early age too for a little bit, and then until I was able to get a worker's permit. So everything I've always had, I always had to pay for it because that's what I was taught.
Right. But I'm sure like there's an aspect of that you're grateful for now.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely taught me a lot. At the time though, I was like, "Fuck!" Like I want some nice things too. Like, why did they get all these nice shoes and I, still rocking with last year's and a couple years back editions?
Hmm.
You know.
Toes all crunched.
Yeah, it was all creased and a little bit of dirt because I used to walk on a path to school, so it was all dirty and stuff. You know, I don't know. I mean, it's memories for sure, but I feel like with a hard type of parenting like that, you do learn a lot from it for sure.
Yeah, and I think that you're more appreciative too of what you do have, and since you had to work for everything that you had, you're going to appreciate a little bit more versus, I can say my kids, I give them a lot, but I work my ass off for what I give them. So sometimes when I don't receive the appreciation that I think that I'm due, I have to pump the brakes because it's like, well, you are giving them all of these things, so they really don't know the appreciation of just getting one thing because
Mhm.
constantly, getting to eat out or,
Yeah,
Uber Eats is off the chain. Like I shouldn't be, I shouldn't be ordering as much Uber Eats as I do, but that's the trade off of working so much. So I grew up in a household where we didn't eat out a lot,
yeah.
and now that's like really all they know. So if I actually make them something, it's something special. So it's like reverse, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what's funny because when I joined the military, that's when I Uber eated a lot, and then my wife also would Uber eat a lot, and I'd be like, "Damn, like you're ordering a lot. Like I'm not used to this. Like I feel like I'm getting spoiled."
Yeah.
Yeah, like eating out was probably like a couple times a year, like when I was younger. Like we didn't come from money, so it was a couple times a year, and that was that. So there was that. But as far as like relationships in this generation, how do you see those playing out?
Relationships, like dating relationships.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, Dating relationships are definitely different from when I grew up. I was raised Catholic, and the goal or the plan was always you finish college and you get married and then you live happily ever after, right?
yeah,
Life has not been that at all, and I think that's typical of a lot of Hispanic families too. Because I'll go to police calls and I hear the parents and the grandparents and the great grandparents saying, like, mijo should be doing this and should be doing that, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay, mijo has a mind of his own and he doesn't want to do any of that. um so relationships in this generation are it just seems like there's a lot of dating but no commitment, and I dating with probably a lot of people, talking to a lot of people, and I don't know if it's a result of social media making
Mhm.
it seem like everybody's available all the time,
Yeah.
or what your thoughts are on that. But it's just like everybody is connected all the time, and so for me, I've had to, like, I'll set time limits as far as like, okay, I'm gonna post this and I'm leaving it alone, and then if I have 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, then okay, I'm gonna go back and check it. But I'm not on it all the time, because I found myself going down that spiral of being on it all the time, and it just consumes you. And I think it takes away from productivity, it takes away from your relationships, right? If you're like
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
phone all the time, how are you communicating, how are you building with your partner if social media is running your life? And maybe at the same time there's people reaching out to you wanting to talk to you, and you're not interested at all in that, right? Because you're trying to build with your partner.
Right.
So I don't know what your thoughts are on this generation and relationships.
Mine, I'm not gonna lie, mine are probably on the negative side. Like I don't really think, like you said, I don't think people take it seriously. I feel like there's a lot of, especially like ones my age, there's a lot of cheating and stuff. So like
Yeah.
no commitment, just kind of just they're playing the field but spending more time with each other, if that makes sense. But
Hmm.
not really being with each other, if that makes sense. So I feel like honestly, I was fortunate. I was pretty fortunate to find a significant other in this generation. I didn't think it was gonna happen until like maybe later on, if even that.
Yeah.
Um, and I, like I said, just because of with that, like people don't take it seriously. I don't think I even took it seriously at an early age. So I
Yeah.
just don't.
I was listening to this podcast, and I can't even remember his name, but I think his name's like Jao Jao or Hio or something like that. But he was talking about why men are non-committal, right? And it could be both ways, but just this specific episode was about why men are non-committal, and that there are two main phases in a man's life. Where phase one, they're like trying to conquer all their goals, and maybe part of those goals aren't just business related, but like they feel like a part of them needs to like go after all the women they can,
Yeah.
right? And that phase sometimes, he says, goes a little bit too late, to where it's like 35 to 45, and it's like, okay, where you should be in like phase two, where it's like settling down and committing, because that lifestyle you can't uphold. Like if you want a partner,
Mm.
nobody wants a partner that's like old and can't give them kids or whatever, but that's not their mindset. And he talks about that, like, they're so consumed with what they want to do, and then sometimes it's too late by the time they realize, like, I need to settle down with somebody that I can build a life with, I can invest with, I can build a family with. And so when it's too late, sometimes the dating pool is very
Not as
scarce.
open. Yeah,
Yeah,
not as open.
scarce
Yeah.
by the time they're ready. And then they can't be upset, because it's like maybe they passed up on a good person because
Right, right.
they're wanting to play around
And
during that
that's
time.
what and that's not what I want for this generation. I want everyone to find like their good match and then just live happy and prosper. You know what I'm saying? Just prosper from it. But like you said, they're realizing too late now, and we already have people that are already realized too late, and they realize that, and they try to pass that message down.
Right.
Whether the younger generation is listening to that or not, I don't know. But from the
I,
looks of it, it doesn't look like it.
yeah, I would say for what it looks like from, I would say like 18 to 35 even. I've seen where it looks like they're not receiving that, and everybody's kind of living the life that they want, living their best life. But what is your best life? Sometimes they don't even know what that is for themselves, because they don't know what is actually going to make them happy, because they're filling these voids with
Hmm.
temporary, I want to say, like, highs, or like, dating this chick and this chick and this chick, versus like finding one that's gonna, bring that fulfillment, that's gonna want to experience life with them and build memories. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's just too late.
Yeah, and like you said, like you could reach all your goals, but you might not be the most happy. So
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it on Jay Shetty and a few of his people that he brings on the show, where they talk about, these millionaires that they have all the money and all the materialistic things in the world, and what they're lacking and why they're not happy is they have no one to share it with that they actually connect with. You can
Yeah.
share it with a bunch of people, but that doesn't mean like you're gonna feel like genuine happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what the generation now needs to know is like happiness needs to come from within yourself, and the choices and partners that you make and the choices of how you go about your relationship is actually a reflection of what you think about yourself. So
Mhm.
a big part of that is becoming the partner that you want. So if you want all these things in somebody else, like you need to become that yourself first, so that way you can really partner with who your equal is and who y'all can build a life with.
Yeah. I can tell you know what you're talking about. I like
I've,
that.
I've I've lived enough life. I mean, I've been divorced and, went through a 10-year custody battle for my kids. So I've lived enough. And then with my occupations, I see families on a daily basis. I see the relationship issues on a daily basis, and it does take a toll on you. It kind of makes you sad, but it also makes you appreciative of what you have.
Yeah.
And so, like, every day when I go to work, I literally learn something new every single day. I don't come home thinking like, today was a waste, or maybe I didn't get my laundry list of stuff done, but I met these people and I tried to help them in what they were going through.
Mm.
And to me, that's my fulfillment, is even if I'm not in a dating relationship or have a partner of my own, like being able to be a positive influence in somebody else's life, that's what gives me
Yeah.
fulfillment.
I got you. So, just I guess as like an advice form for the my generation and younger, what is it that you yourself look for in a partner, dating
What
partner?
kind of going back to what I said was that I in my younger years, what I was taught was go to school, then you get married, have kids, build a family, live happily ever after. And so my advice would be to become the partner that you want to have in your life. So
Hmm.
if you want somebody that's financially successful, if you want somebody that loves to travel, if you want, then you yourself become that. Don't look for someone that's just going to pay for it for you, because you might find that they have the financial means, but y'all don't connect on like a conversational level, or y'all same, what y'all enjoy is the same. And I would say, like, when you go out to find this partner, um, you're not going to find somebody that loves to travel necessarily in the club, right? So
Right.
like
Right.
go go do things that, like, if you're trying to find somebody that loves to travel, like go do skydiving or go do outdoor stuff, or do the activities that you're trying to find somebody that enjoys at the same time.
Yeah.
Also, dating on websites and stuff necessarily isn't necessarily going to bring you the person that you desire, because you're not meeting them, you're not feeling their energy.
They're going off the looks. That's what those apps are for.
The looks, and then the words, right, whatever they communicate to you. And things are so different, from a phone communication, written communication, versus like face to face, and
Yeah.
like spending time with that person. So I would just advise, being able to have a conversation over the phone, be able to, if y'all aren't in the same vicinity or y'all are busy, FaceTime as much as you can and see if there's spaces in y'all's conversation to where y'all can't
Mm.
keep the conversation going.
Right.
And then, asking yourself, why do you want a relationship? Are you the partner that you are seeking? So are you that whole laundry list of things you want in somebody else? Are you that yourself?
Right. Right. Yeah. I think my generation and younger, like I said, just sees it differently. Like from what I've seen, a lot of the females that are my age, what they're looking for is six figures. The height, they got to be 6 foot and taller. That'll make six figures, and I forgot the other one. It's the zodiac sign. They got to be the right zodiac sign.
Hmm. They're
That's the generation we're living in. So
they might be looking for the rest of their life, or they'll come to the realization that that's just not. Um, I don't want to say it's not attainable. Maybe it is attainable for some. I don't know how you would find, like, unless you put it into a computer generated like list of, you got to have 6 figures, you got to be a zodiac sign, you got to be over 6 foot, how you would even find that person.
I don't know, because I feel like there's just so many like things you have to qualify for just to take this person out. You know what I'm saying? Like it just sounds ridiculous when I say it. I'm not, probably because I'm also making it sound ridiculous, but to them it makes all the sense in the world.
No, it doesn't sound ridiculous when you say it. I just, because I've already lived it. Like, I've lived not that list, but a
Yeah.
list of, okay, I want somebody that has a career, they have a vehicle, they have a car, they have this laundry list of things that I want somebody to have, but then when you're spending time together, they don't care about you emotionally. They're not loving you in the love language that you need to receive.
Mm,
And if you're just going off of a list, you're not going to be happy.
yeah.
There has to be a connection, there has to be chemistry. And sometimes those things aren't going to come with a list. Sometimes it looks completely different from what you thought that list would be.
Right. But I think it makes sense, like, if you're looking for a dude that has everything put together, you know, has a job, car, and his own place. Like, I feel like a female looking for that, that's more realistic because they're looking for someone that can take care of them as much as they can take care of themselves. You know what I mean?
Right.
But saying like specifics, like 6 figures and all that, like I think that that's where it gets ridiculous because at this point you want to date an NBA player, you want to date, you know, someone that's up there in fame and makes a lot of money, you know. And who's
And
to
then,
say they won't date you, you know?
exactly, who's to say they're going to date you, but then who's to say they're going to treat you right? Or
Mhm.
okay with maybe you're okay with sharing your person. I've heard a lot of that in this generation too, where they're okay with, well, as long as I'm taken care of, I don't care what they do.
Yeah, and that's the complete opposite of happiness, in my opinion, from what I've seen. Because I've seen, you know, a lot of female friends go through relationships like that because they had that mindset, and then later on be hurt because they got cheated on or played with, or you know, whatever the case may be. And it's like, well, that's kind of the lifestyle you're asking for if you're
Right.
looking for that type of stuff in a guy, you know?
Well, it makes me happy to hear that even in your generation, you're the different mindset that the younger generations need to hear, because you're passing it along a lot earlier than it being too late. And not only that, but you're living it as a role model, right? You're married and you're seeking out that happiness and to build a life with somebody. And we need more models like that for our younger generation.
I appreciate that. I'm honestly, I'm doing my best. You know, I'm in no way, shape, or form perfect. Like I have my own issues too, but I do want to be that person, be the change in what's going on in the generation. I mean,
Right.
because I could sit here and talk down on it all day, but if I'm not being the change, then what does that make? You know,
Yeah.
so
A
might as well,
hypocrite.
yeah. So might as well try to be the change and hope that other people try to as well. You know,
Yeah, because maybe they'll find some truth or the message that you're speaking to them. They'll feel that and be able to relate to it. So
right.
you know the impact you're making.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And I know we're getting low on time, so we're going to go ahead and end it off around here. But before we do that, I do have a little surprise letter that I want to share with you, if that's all right.
Of course. Thank
So
you.
if you can, please cover your eyes real quick while I pop it up on the screen.
Okay.
Here we go. All right, you can go ahead and read it.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, just read it. Yeah.
Dear Clarissa, you should already know that you are an amazing, inspiring individual, both with gym content and military content. You're inspiring people all over the military itself. It needs more leaders and, in general, more individuals like you. Keep it all up and don't ever stop being you. Know that you got a compañero behind you, and that's me, tu compa Gonzo. Thank you so much, Gonzo. Trying to make me cry. I truly appreciate you being genuine, for you reaching out. I hope this is not our last conversation, and that we continue to have this connection.
Absolutely. You know, we definitely will again for sure. And I love this episode. I appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your day to be on for sure.
Of course. Now I'm glad that you reached out. We need to continue to try to positively impact as many people as we can, whether they want to hear the message or not. At least we're doing our part. And so for that, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And stay in touch for sure.
I will. All
All right.
right.
You have a good one.